our PDA Town Hall for November 16th, 2025. And this is a day I've been looking forward to for quite a while, folks, because I had two really heavy deadlines on November 15th. Very important, life important deadlines. Now, one wasn't technically mine. In fact, both of them technically weren't mine. One is for our 501c4 affiliated organization, Progressives for Democracy in America, the tax filings for 2024, which were catapulted into a range of difficulty from having previously been very simple because of all that we did with that branch of the PDA family in 2024. But I got it all done, both the California taxes as a registered corporation in California and the federal taxes done at 10:30 p.m. and 11:15 p.m. last night. And then yesterday was also the deadline for my daughter's application to her early decision one school, the place at which, if she is admitted, the whole drama of getting into college will have been rather not prolonged, and we'll know on December 15th. And we can at least live now for the next month in the hope that that's the case and that traumatic episode for our family is just going to be a happy, brief episode for our family. So I've been looking forward to November 16th for quite a while, and I know that for some people in the PDA team, I've been a little more absent than I usually am, but that will now no longer be the case as with both of those out of the way and some other things that were in the days and weeks previous to November 15th. I now can refocus on the political reality of our time. And it is certainly complex, folks. It's complex, and of course, as we know, very troubling. I want to say still, it's very troubling. But on today's show, we're going to return to a theme that we never really should stray very far from ever in PDA until we have universal single payer health care in the United States of America. Medicare for all, that is universal single payer health care in the United States of America, is always at the top of or co-equal with any other policy proposal that PDA advocates for. It is absolutely inhumane that we have the healthcare system that we have in the country. And I believe there are about 19, 20 other, what we're called liberal democracies in the world that have a relative prosperity similar to the United States of America that are technological industrialized societies. And all of them have, in one form or another, universal single payer healthcare. They're slightly different variations on what is essentially either a hyper regulated private market like in Germany, or of course there's the NHS in England, and then there's just similar national health insurance systems like we have in Canada and in most of those other countries. And so we need this here, folks. The population of the United States is getting the worst kind of raw deal in so many ways. And so we are going to lift up that subject today as we talk with our featured guest, Gillian Mason, who is here to tell us about a conference which everybody can sign up for. Of course, it's taking place in a physical location in Florida, but these days conferences can be attended from anywhere in the world. And she'll be here to tell us about the Healthcare Now. Let's get the proper title. The Healthcare Resistance, the Medicare for All National Strategy Conference, which I will be attending in Rockledge, Florida, next weekend, Saturday and Sunday. By the way, next weekend, though, the conference will have ended by the time of our town hall, and we do have confirmed, and hopefully he'll be here because, confirmations these days can change with people who are as busy as the person I'm about to mention. We do have Ro Khanna confirmed for his follow-up return to the town hall, where he will just be talking with you, the attendees, and taking questions and answers. Now, before I get to Mike Fox with our PDA to-dos for this week and Donna Smith with her weekly update, I want to just bring into the dialogue William Walter, not knowing what's happening in the Packers and Giants game right now. So maybe it's the wrong moment to bring him in, but to say hi to William and in bringing William forward, I want to let people know that the DNC, and this is very hard to keep track of, folks. The DNC is having one of its quarterly meetings in Los Angeles, December 11th to 13th, and William is one of the steering committee members of Young Progressive Democrats of America. Of course, the great work he does in Wisconsin is going to maybe head on out here. We'll be heading out here, and it's going to be great to introduce him to one of these DNC meetings, which are, you know, let's not talk about the DNC now. Maybe we can take it up when we get to Q&A with the audience in the second hour. But it'll be great for William to see it. And anyway, William, what's on your mind besides the football game and the fact that you'll be heading to sunny LA, which right now is half flooded and full of dark clouds?
Yeah, well, we had one thing that's really on my mind right now. We had a great event yesterday on the northwest corner of Milwaukee. Unfortunately, ICE is building a ginormous new detention facility here, and the rapid response organizing around this event, the amount of people that we were able to turn out in essentially 3 or 4 days' notice. We had a few hundred people there. We were able to march, to chant. We held a nice little press conference to drive awareness, and every major media outlet in the city of Milwaukee was there to cover it. It was really odd for me, and I was talking with a lot of my organizing friends in Milwaukee because often much of my work, I'm in the suburbs of Milwaukee, about 25, 30 minutes outside of Milwaukee. I travel down to the city, and I show my support by attending what I can, amplifying what I can, assisting where I can. But that's not, my neck of like, it's my neck of the woods, but it's not. I don't live in Milwaukee, right? I'm a little bit outside the city. So a lot of the electoral work that I'm doing, particularly for state races here in Wisconsin, it's different districts. And this facility, because ICE is desperately trying to get out of the city, they want to try to push it away so it's able to be swept under the rug. This new facility is legitimately about 5 minutes away from my house. So
Mhm.
the amount of older, elderly suburban white people that showed up for this event, it really was inspiring for me because it reminds me that so much of this battle that we're facing, not just for progressivism, but for the soul of the United States, it's a fight that every single one of us will be impacted by, whether it directly affects us or not, right? And so many of these issues are intertwined that if we are not able to stand up and fight for the most marginalized in our communities right now, eventually it will come back to haunt us. We need to be defending each other at every opportunity. We need to be protecting our communities when we can, because the community will return the favor. And if not one, all of us cannot be free if any one of us are not free. So we're gonna, continue pushing these events. We're gonna continue showing up whenever we can. Alan, I love to say 90% of solidarity is just showing up, right? Good leaders know when to lead, but they also know when to listen, and they know when to follow. And sometimes it's all right to just show up and follow and be a body there, to help amplify the fabulous work that other organizers are doing. We need to do a better job of that on the left, I think, is everybody wants to, get their moment in the light, but the light can shine on all of us if we're able to stand together within and bask in its glow.
Well, thank you for that. And William, if you're able to hang out and throughout the whole hour, just let's bring you in as a co-host and maybe the first question for Gillian after her presentation, a brief presentation, and then we'll take Q&A about the conference and talk about Medicare for All, of course. Now we're going to have a guest appearance by Anthony Floccavento in a moment. And maybe what I'd love to do is to have Mike Fox right now give our PDA to-dos for the week, then have Anthony go, and then let's have Donna. I'll throw it to Donna, and maybe Donna can introduce Jillian, because Donna is, of course, our sage when it comes to Medicare for All and the healthcare system. Mike Fox, take it away.
Thank you, Alan. Can you hear me?
I can indeed.
Fantastic. And thank you everyone for being here. Here come the to-dos. We got a packed show here, so I'll be brief. Hang on. All right. So number one to do, as is true every week, revel in the fact that you're surrounded by people who get it here. Every Sunday, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific, we come together here. We show solidarity with each other. Let's keep in mind, we keep the chat open for most of this show. We'll shut it down while the guests are speaking so that we all stay focused on what these fine people have to say. But let's keep in mind, gang, that we're here to show support for each other. Okay. So, bottom line, before you start typing, just try to consider for a second, how is what I'm saying going to inspire others and help others here come together in the fight that we have before us? Okay. I appreciate that. So, you make me healthier by being here, and I thank you for it. This is literally healthcare each and every week here. So, thank you all for being here. To do number two, take notes. It ain't real unless it's written down, right? So, we're going to have several to dos. I'm going to be tossing into the chat a big long list of them in a doc, but I won't go over all of those on this call. That's what our campaign to victory call is for every Thursday, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific. Okay. But drilling down to the most important to dos, time and treasure. Time, phone bank, phone bank, phone bank, phone bank. Afton Baines special election in Tennessee 7. She's a single payer healthcare activist like nobody's business. She is 100% solid when it comes to PDA issues. We've got a shot. Imagine how big that'll be. Remember how we felt Tuesday? Now it's a blur. 2 weeks ago, Tuesday? In any event, in Virginia and New Jersey and Pennsylvania and California, that wave that came through, imagine how that will be amplified if we can take a Republican district in Tennessee with a single payer healthcare advocate. Enough said. So I'm tossing the link into the chat. If you don't see it, go to pdamerica.org/volunteer. Give us an hour, hitting those phones, getting the folks out to vote. This could be huge, gang. Okay, so let's all get in. Our goal is 20 new phone bankers. Phone bankers, we've got a lot of them on this call. If you're a phone banker, let folks know and ask them to come on board. Let's all work together as a team, recruit some new people, and get them on the phones. Okay, that's time. From a treasurer standpoint, we have a goal on this call of solidarity, right? So what we're looking for, gang, is just $1. Literally just $1. If you can do more than that, please do, by all means. And anybody who can do $100, I'll match the first person who does that personally. But the point here is not so much the dollar volume as it is solidarity. Okay, let's show that commitment to each other here and make that tip jar ring. If you don't see the link that I'm tossing into the chat, just go to pdamerica.org, hit donate, make something happen, okay? I'll be back at the top of the hour to establish where we're at on our goals. And everybody stick around. We record this up until a spot and then go to family time. And that's where we'll really dive headlong into where we're at, okay? Back to you, Alan.
Yes, I noticed somebody put in the chat that Indivisible National has endorsed Afton Bain. Afton Bain was formerly the Indivisible, I believe, state coordinator for Tennessee back a few years ago. And however, PDA, we endorsed her, of course, in the primary, and we have a really sort of privileged relationship, at least from our point of view, with that campaign. And we are working as hard or harder than anybody to achieve a victory there. It will be spectacular if it can be achieved, and a really exceptional representative for the people of the 7th District, of the gerrymandered 7th District of Tennessee, if Afton can win. And I think she will really be a spark for the whole American political world. And I do want to say this, though, as we talk about Afton, we will be focusing on Afton. And this is for all of everybody in the audience here, for the broader PDA family. We have to now, especially as we get past December 2nd, which is Afton's election day, really hone in on all of these new open districts across the country where there have been redrawn districts. And we have to really hone in on where there are progressive candidates running, whether it's a red seat that's held by the Republican Party in the U.S. House of Representatives, whether it's a Senate seat held by a Republican, This is a year where it's quite possible we could do exceptionally well. I think there's an incredible appetite for progressive candidates, as we see. Afton, of course, won her primary as the progressive candidate, another example of a progressive victory just a little while back. And yeah, and we all need to do our best to see who's running in our district or in an adjacent district, get a sense of who the strongest progressive candidates are or candidate is, and get them into the PDA orbit so that we can really have a powerful slate of progressive candidates to support across the country. So we'll, of course, on the staff be coordinating that work, but please, all of you out there, you're absolutely essential to that process for PDA. And now is the time to really hone in on those candidates and those races. The race is happening. It's a national election, right? 435 members get reelected every 2 years. And this is about as consequential a House race as has ever been in my lifetime. And the Senate is equally consequential as well. Of course, that's only 33 or 34 seats that are up this time. So now let's go forward with Anthony Floccavento has joined us, and he's going to give us an update on the Ruby initiative. The PDA is partnering along with Ruby, the Beyond Resistance effort and campaign, and as well as maybe a thought about the Rural New Deal and its great relevance. And of course, maybe Afton Bain could be the person to introduce a Rural New Deal bill into the Congress. And it is certainly something that we want to get introduced to candidates all across the country so they can run on it, because I think it is a absolutely necessary policy framework and policy package, and one that is really potentially transformative of the whole logjam we have in contemporary American politics, because the Democratic Party is heretofore more or less abandoned small town and rural America. And this is, of course, the way to end that by supporting the Rural New Deal program. Anthony, what's up?
Hey, Alan, thanks. I'm coming out of a couple days of a nasty cold, so I'm talking like I don't know what, a lifelong chain smoker perhaps, but in any event, um, I'm thrilled to
You
have
have
a
gravitas. You have a
yeah,
lot
I
of
have gravitas. Finally, after all these years. Really appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to hit three highlights. You know, because we work together a lot, that part of the pitch that Ruby makes and part of the Beyond Resistance campaign that PDA is a big part of is pushing the left and the Democratic Party to be for something, not just against all the shit of Trump. We must stand for something, and that has to include working people and rural people. So, three kind of developments, all of which are encouraging. The first is that we have a call this Wednesday evening, I'm sorry, afternoon, that Public Citizen, one of the large players in the resistance campaign, is co-sponsoring with us, in which we're bringing together several kind of more traditional pro-democracy, anti-tyranny groups with a whole bunch of farmer and ag and rural groups to begin to plan joint activities as part of the resistance. This is something we've been pushing for, feeling is a huge gap in most of our resistance efforts. And we don't know exactly what will come of it, but we have some of the major rural and farmer organizations on the call and several big national pro-democracy groups. So it could be the beginning of seeing rural and working people highlighted much more in the fight, both their challenges under Trump and solutions. So we're excited. We'll keep you posted on that. Second thing, for the better part of this year, Ruby and again many PDA members have been part of trying to move the DNC towards a clear and compelling statement and action on behalf of rural folks, working class folks. Like, what is the DNC going to do? What is the Democratic Party going to do? Heretofore, we've had a lot of positive conversations with them behind the scenes, but nada publicly. There has been nothing. Well, a woman named Kathy Frederickson, who is head of the Georgia Rural Caucus for the Georgia Democratic Party. She's an amazing go-getter. She's also the chair of her congressional district. She has taken a very short and sweet plan that I drafted called the Plan for Winning Back Rural and Working Folks. It's a simple kind of outline of major steps that need to be taken by the party. She has turned that into a fantastic full document, formatted, looks really professional, and she is moving now to try to get every rural caucus in the country to embrace it and present it to Ken Martin as a kind of 50 state strategy. So if any of the PDA members who have been part of our effort to move the DNC have connections with your state rural caucus, please let me know, because we would love your help helping Kathy move that forward. Last thing specific to the Rural New Deal, which we co-authored with PDA and Allen, is a woman named Melissa Bird. She is running for Congress in Oregon's 4th district. She is primarying a pretty centrist, if I don't want to say she's corporate, but a kind of a pretty centrist Dem who's been in office for 1 or 2 terms. Melissa's a Native American woman, and through her connection to Dave Alba, Melissa has decided that she wants to make the Rural New Deal the centerpiece of her campaign for Congress. So we are actively working with Melissa on everything from communication strategies around the Rural New Deal to teasing out some of the policies and also addressing some of the pieces that are missing from the Rural New Deal, which she sees from her perspective. So this is exciting. This is going to be, I hope Afton is the second one, but this will be the first congressional candidate who said, I want to put this at the center of my campaign, not just a part of my campaign. So we're extremely excited about that, and we'll be working closely with Melissa. And any of you in her district or close to it in Oregon, please reach out to her to let her know how supportive you are of that.
In fact, I think she already has the PDA Oregon endorsement, and then it's going to filter up to national. So the national elections team will be reviewing that, and almost certainly we almost always follow from what the grassroots wants. Thank you so much for all of that. And by the way, the DNC is coming to LA, so they're coming into my backyard. I will certainly be pressing for the adoption of the plan for winning back the rural voters and working people from Kathy from Georgia, and I'll be in touch with you about that. The call on Wednesday, if you have a link for that, if you want to put that into the chat. And Anthony, you have always had about as much gravitas as anybody I work with and know, but you sounded today. So rest up, feel better, and thank you for joining us. And
Thank you.
onwards. And Donna Smith, boy, it's almost 1:25. It's 25 after the hour. I apologize.
I'll be fast, but I want Anthony to stay on because I want to say something that I don't know if people have connections on the call, and Anthony may have connections too. And I will lead into Gillian if that's okay.
Yes, go for it.
Perfect.
Let me just say before you leave with Gillian Mason's just the greatest, everybody. So incredible advocate.
Hang on. Gillian is worth waiting for, folks.
There we go. But Donna, you introduce her and I will kick it and listen.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. And yes, I grabbed my inhaler before I did it too. Anthony, I was talking with a young candidate this week and trying to help him out in Deadwood, South Dakota, of all places. And he was his fellow commissioners, some of whom petitioned for his recall the day after he was elected, a young progressive guy. So now he's fighting a recall. But anyway, one of the problems that he's trying to address that he's really being attacked for is Deadwood is this little gambling town with a big, rich Western history, right? And so they bring in a lot of income for the state of South Dakota, a lot of tax revenue. And theoretically, apparently, a certain percentage of that income is to go to promoting Deadwood, not just general promotion of the whole state. And that is not happening. The money is not being used. And Deadwood, the housing costs apparently have risen to $400,000. Average housing costs, 10% homeless population there. Because young people, how can they afford? In Deadwood, you don't make $10 an hour sometimes. So anyway, Anthony, if there's any connections or people on the call who have connections in South Dakota, we surely need to get the Rural New Deal in the hands of South Dakotans. And there are definitely Democrats in South Dakota, for sure. I'll tell you, there are. They're not being very well reported on. I also helped this his name is Blake Joseph, those of you who would like to know. But the other thing I talked to him about is exactly what Anthony just said and what William has said. We have to stand for something. Stop fighting all the gossip and crap they're throwing at you, is what I told him. Start talking about your ideas and what you, Blake, want to do. That's how you were elected in the first place. He overcame an incumbent in his original election at large. So he did a great job, a young candidate. But boy, rural politics can be rough sometimes. They can be rough and tumble. So even in a state like South Dakota. So Anthony, any connections people may have into that state, let's get their Democrat on board with on that. Thank you, Anthony, for listening to that, for any connection you may have. I'm also very close to people in Wyoming who are suffering right now. You know, the aftermath of this terrible shutdown and what it did to people in rural America is just unconscionable. It really is. People think, oh, well, the benefits were ultimately paid. But do people think about the hell that folks went through in hours and days and weeks without pay, without food? It just was, to me, I was so angry at all of them, to be honest, all of them. And I think a lot of Americans were very angry. And I think the Democrats, this is my opinion, could have stood their ground. I think they could have, but that's just me. That's just me. And then yesterday, now to answer, William is talking about how many of we boomers are showing up, at these things. Great. I'm glad we are, William. To the extent that we can, I'm glad that we do. I think that's awesome. But Susan Gilbert and I were lucky enough yesterday to go to an event for a young candidate here in Colorado running for the state legislature. His name is Neil Walya. And what I loved in that room, what was so amazing, Susan and I were two of the only little old white ladies there. That room was filled with young progressive people of every diverse background and culture you could think of. And we were at a restaurant called Taste of India where it was to die for. I would have put my face in the baklava, I'm telling you. It was just that. But it was the feeling of joy. This young man ran a primary campaign against Diana DeGette a few years ago, and PDA here, our group here locally, endorsed him because we thought he was a good progressive. Now he's running state legislature in a primary. He's going to win this one. And I think about all of we boomers out there, lift these young people. They're starting to win. They're starting to take office. Lift them up, helps them. Go. Yeah, we got ground to win back, but they also have better ideas. Okay, now to Gillian. Gillian, my darling. We met long ago when Gillian was running Massachusetts healthcare organization. And Benjamin Day was the leading healthcare now. And I came into the office and we just met for a few minutes, and she was just delightful and just a joy to be around. And I never imagined that she would be the one who would lead healthcare now into what I think will be kind of this final real big surge. Because I think we're close, folks. As much disarray as there is in this healthcare system right now, I have to promise you the reason I have been somewhat absent in terms of getting my Positively Progressive produced and done has been a healthcare trauma in my own family. That same old lesson that life can turn on a dime. And especially when you're a boomer, right? Hubby has a very routine procedure. 36 hours later, we are nothing but routine. Our whole life upended. And this healthcare system, I'm not crying, but I could. Our healthcare system, I have to tell you, is so dysfunctional right now. We have had hospital contracts in Denver disrupted because the money is not good here and the money is not good there, and nurses are lost after the pandemic. The nursing crisis is palpable when people are in the hospital, folks. Do not send any loved one, nor should you go to any hospital without an advocate with you 24 hours a day. I'm sad to say, but it's absolutely true. And here in Denver, yes, Kaiser Permanente was one of the people involved, decided they didn't like their contract with Intermountain Health, made a contract with another hospital system, HCA Healthcare, and the patients, woe is us, right? We were the ones at the bottom because we all know, and Gillian has really helped us move this so far forward, Gillian. Patients know, caregivers know, doctors know, nurses know. We can't go on like this. It can't go on like this. I'm a 70-year-old woman who was the unpaid staff of a hospital system. That's the reality, folks. That's what we're all facing. And we've got to stand up for this push because I know, as wacky as Marjorie Taylor Greene is, when she starts talking about healthcare being bad, the tables are kind of tipping. Everybody's got healthcare needs. So Gillian, God love you for taking this over. I'm sorry you moved to Texas, but I think you like it. So and my heart is broken. This is the first in-person meeting of healthcare now that I will not attend. And I'm so sorry, and I'll be there in spirit. Joanne, it's yours.
Oh, Donna, we are going to miss you at the conference, but you will definitely be there in spirit, and you better join us online. Anyone who can't be there with us in person actually should join us online, but especially Donna, but especially all of you. And you can do that by actually joining looking at our social media. We're going to be streaming the conference live on Facebook and also on our YouTube channel. So even if you're not a fan of Zuckerberg, you can still watch and interact in the comments. A lot of people have asked me why we're having our national strategy conference here. We're going to be having it in Florida this year. And I guess I just wanted to give you some kind of personal context from my life. Nobody gets involved with the work of advancing healthcare because their life is awesome, right? We all have suffered at the hands of this terrible for-profit system. I got involved because I went broke and was miserable in Massachusetts when I got sick, even though I had insurance. Of course, it ended up being a life-changing situation. Up until then, I was going to be a college English professor, and I was pretty psyched about that. But life took me in a different direction. I got addicted to the power of organizing and organizing for healthcare justice in particular. And so I ended up getting involved with this movement and working in the labor movement for 15 years in Massachusetts. I thought when I saw the healthcare system in Massachusetts, I thought that was really bad. It was bad enough that it made my life miserable, bad enough that it made me, really think about ending it all. I mean, it's real, right? And then I moved down to Texas, and Texas made me realize what the final logical conclusion of a totally dysfunctional healthcare system, a homicidal healthcare system, looks like. I saw I got charged $25,000 for a one-night ER visit. I had to see doctors who are 4 hours away from my home because there are no providers in my area, right? I saw that even though I was privileged, I was very much not insulated from the, kind of really, really devastating impacts of the healthcare system. But I also fell in love I fell in love with Texas. This guy here is bigger than any other place on earth. You should come and visit us if you haven't. And the progressives here are the toughest people I have ever met in my life. They're literally putting their lives on the line for each other and to make sure, that we all stay safe. And that has been inspiring to see how the complete collapse of the institution, the complete collapse of the social contract has actually created a kind of site of resistance. And that's why when we were thinking about the where to locate the conference this year, I was really excited about the prospect of Florida, because what we're seeing, because it's so important right now to fight for the red states, to fight for people who are disenfranchised, living in a system that they did not choose because of all the gerrymandering and other forms of disenfranchisement that you know about all too well. And so we connected with our friends at Medicare for All Florida, who are doing an amazing, amazing job of fighting back in the wake of a terrible political climate. They are passing legislation. They are keeping the vision of Medicare for All alive. And that's what we really want to highlight this year at our conference. So we're going to be in Rockledge, Florida, which is very close to beautiful Cocoa Beach. And we are going to be together for 2 days. We'll have speakers, including the distinguished Alan Minsky, as well as folks from other progressive organizations and ally organizations across the country. We'll have workshops by, all different sorts of folks, including, talking about unions and engaging unions in the fight for Medicare for All. Public Citizen will be there talking about keeping the fight for Medicare for All alive in those kind of anti-authoritarian pro-democracy organizations and the kind of movement that's been burgeoning lately. We'll talk about municipal resolutions and state level campaigns and all the different ways that folks can engage right now in action. And I think that, I just want to kind of, I'll take more specific questions as well, but I want to just say that, I think that in this moment, we all know, and I'm just so overwhelmed by all that support in the chat for Medicare for All. We all know that Medicare for All is necessary. And we all know that right now it is not politically feasible. Am I wrong? No, I don't think I am, right? What we need to do now is to build a world where it is politically feasible. And that's the kind of thing that PDA is doing every year. And it's the kind of thing that we're doing at Healthcare Now. We are building a social movement that can push back on both the cruelty of the Republicans and the total neglect and disregard of the corporate Democrats. And it's really important. So even though right now we know that we might not get Medicare for All next year, maybe not the year after that, we also know that we have to keep fighting and we have to keep the vision alive. And so what we're doing now is we're working on defending the public healthcare systems that we have, demonstrating our solidarity with all the people who are being impacted by the worst actions of the Trump administration, by getting involved in fights like the Medicaid cuts and privatization of Medicare. At the same time, though, we're keeping our eyes on the North Star, which is Medicare for All. We know that Medicare for All is the way to solve this problem. And we're going to meet people where their pain, anxiety, and fear is at. And we're going to share with them this solution. And we're going to get together and actually change things. And that's it. Love to take some questions if I haven't chit-chatted too long. And
oh,
yeah,
no, you were perfectly eloquent. And a fantastic summary, and it's going to be a great conference. And I couldn't be more thrilled to be attending. But I want to throw it to William Walter with the second question, but I noticed Donna put her camera back on, and when Donna put her camera back on and the subject is healthcare, I'm going to call on Donna Smith first.
Well, the Broncos already scored, so I can talk now. It's just a field goal, but they scored. Alan was teasing me before the call, Joey. He said they bet I'd be gone before 2:26 because it's the Broncos and the Chiefs. I said, oh no, I can watch and turn the camera off and be there, but not. How many of us have done that, right? Jillian, talk to me a little bit about why should people attend virtually? I mean, a lot of virtual conferences you can get on and you don't really feel like you're participatory, like you're there, like you can, tell us how this conference will be different in that regard and what could people look forward to?
Well, I do think that, being there in person is a special experience and it's important. But
Yes.
that being said, so, obviously people who are going to be there in person will have a different experience, but we really want to share this with folks who can't make it. Right now, travel in this country sucks. A lot of people are dealing with the really legitimate fear about vaccine mandate rollbacks and, and deportations and targeting of trans folks. There are a million reasons why people can't make it. And so we want to make sure that you're all included. And that's why, first of all, we've made this available for free to everyone. It's on our socials. You don't have to pay to attend. And then the other thing is that we're going to have a dedicated social media team there who are going to be making sure that your questions and your discussion in the comments are related to the folks who are in the room. And so we really hope to engage people in the discussion. But, online has its limits, but it also is infinite in the number of people that we can reach. And so I hope that balance will be good.
I actually have a question for
Solidarity
William.
with Jim. I had to change my background.
I have a question for William, as William is up next to have a question for Gillian. I just came back from New York City, folks, and I asked a few friends, does this town seem like more upbeat? Sort of, there was a positive glow about New York, or is that just me, sort of anthropomorphizing the city because I was so excited about Mom Donnie's victory. Everybody said to me, no, it's real. People are really excited about what happened politically in New York City with Mom Donnie winning, and people are feeling really good about things. And of course, the youth vote in that election was spectacular. The youth vote swinging back to the Democrats across the country on Tuesday. Well, in the handful of states where there were votes, but little nooks and crannies in the country that people weren't following so closely, including Mississippi even. And but in New York, certainly, the youth, the support for Mamdani is real. And of course, Mamdani is an advocate for universal single payer health care at the federal level. And what's your sense among the American youth? How much is it just a slam dunk that we need Medicare for all?
Now, Alan, you're asking me? Okay. So it's interesting because no matter what party, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, I'm in the burbs of Milwaukee. This is a more conservative community. Young people here are struggling immensely with the cost of healthcare too. This is a bipartisan issue, or at least it should be, if we have the kind of national support from the party that I think is desperately necessary. If there's one issue that has really resonated across party lines with anybody that I've talked to under the age of 40, that there is not a single person that I have ever talked to who is like, I love my health insurance. I love it. It's great, right? It just everything about it. I love paying, $250 a month in premiums and then still having to pay out of pocket when I show up to see the doctor. Like, oh, it's just great. Like, nobody thinks that way. People like their doctors, right? But the insurance itself, no. And of course, there are arguments we could use, such as 32 of the 33 nations globally who have figured out this massive complex beast that is a single payer system, and the United States simply hasn't been able to. We can also point to the raw data that shows that the United States spends more per capita on healthcare than any other nation in the world. Yet we have significantly worse returns. Not even worse returns, significantly worse returns. Now, of course, there are many aspects that go into that. Americans have very sedentary lifestyles. We have poor diets. But a lot of that also, comes back to the economic structures of the country that, if people don't have the time to cook for themselves at home, it's a lot easier to just swing through the drive-thru at McDonald's and pick up some food for your kids. If you can't afford, organic, high-quality materials for your dinner every night, you're going to have to buy what you have access to. We see that a lot with sodas in particular. A small aside, I used to work in the fitness industry, and the amount of soda, the amount of alcohol, right? I'm in Wisconsin. You got to mention our beer too. There is a reason that we have worse health outcomes in the United States that aren't directly due to our healthcare system, but our healthcare system could mitigate a lot of these concerns if we had a more just and equitable approach. And that's something that I am hearing from young people across the political spectrum is, the healthcare in the United States is an absolute joke. And there's a lot of false information that goes around, particularly when you're speaking about something like Medicare for all. Right? Individuals love to say, oh, if you have to see a specialist, you're going to have to wait for 3 years to get to see them. And I'm like, dog, have you seen a specialist recently yourself? Because I did. I had an elbow concern from a weightlifting injury. It took me 9 months to see my specialist. That's with insurance in the for-profit American healthcare system, right? They try to deflect from the reality of the situation to justify their support for a system that they can neither articulate nor don't properly understand. And it's our job as organizers, I think, to sit down with these people empathetically, of course, right? Like, it's so easy and it's so cathartic for me to sit down and be like, yeah, dummy, we told you, we told you in 2016 when Bernie was running that healthcare is a human right and that we need some kind of single payer system. But that's not how you win over hearts and minds. You need to be able to say, okay, what is your problem? When they explain it to you, walk them through how healthcare insurance, in particular for-profit insurance providers, serve as a middleman to jack up the cost of healthcare, push it onto the consumer, because every cog in the machine needs to take their percent off the top, and how we can make a more efficient system by reducing administrative burden, by increasing the size of the pot, by forcing everybody to be or allowing everybody to be in this pot. And we would give the American consumer significantly more negotiating leverage, particularly against big pharmaceutical companies, instead of having 10 players that are able to say, we'll pay X, Y, or Z for this medication. If the United States government is the healthcare provider, it's either you sell this product at cost, or it's not going to hit the market. So we can make a more efficient system. We can do a better job here, and I think healthcare might be one of the single best ways to bring young people into the progressive fold, because it's an issue that all of them are facing and an issue that all of them are desperate for solutions to. You are muted, Alan.
Right. Gillian, maybe Gillian's just reflections on William's very eloquent response to my prompt.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like, that's what I'm hearing too. Not a lot of satisfaction with the healthcare system. Yeah, I mean, like, I try to take I'm a one-person staff for an organization that has 40,000 supporters, right? And so, but I take at least an hour to 4 hours of my time every month to make sure that I'm sitting down with one of the many high school students who requests an interview to talk about Medicare for all for one of their school projects or something like that. These kids are not getting the assignment to write about American healthcare. They're teenagers who are deeply invested in the fact that they do not have adequate healthcare. Their families don't have adequate healthcare, and they're looking at a future without adequate healthcare. So yeah, I hear that all the time. I mean, in general, I think that the situation with the insurance companies, I think that everyone's aware that it's not just bad, but it's escalating. It's getting worse, right? I had a recent situation with my health insurance. First of all, whenever you want to contact them now, you have to go through an AI chatbot first. And so I had a long conversation with a chatbot, then with a representative who was clearly somewhere else. And I said to him, what's the time frame here before I can expect a decision from you? And he said 7 to 10 days. And I said, I'm legitimately worried I might be dead by then. And he said, oh, I hope that doesn't happen. There's such a consummate lack of humanity, and it's expressed in everything about the system, from their casual disregard for human beings, to the really kind of complex structures they've developed to make more money on this and to cut down on any kind of service they have to provide. So I guess I just think we're all seeing it, and yeah, we do have to talk to people. I dropped a link in the chat to we have a really great podcast called Medicare for All podcast. I'm biased, I'm the host. And it's the funniest non-comedy healthcare podcast out there. So I recommend listening to it. But this particular episode is excellent. We talk a lot about how to talk about single payer healthcare with people who don't give a shit about politics. And, that's what we're going to need to do if we want to win this. So I strongly recommend that.
Alan, if I could add one thing too, quick.
Sure.
And Gillian, let's not forget, a lot of major media outlets don't want to have this conversation, but in my conversations with young people and, perusing social media, let's not forget the Luigi Mangione story, right? Like, look at the support. A man was murdered in cold blood. And the amount of young people who came out and said, like, we don't agree with this, but, like, I get it. That should be terrifying, not just to us as healthcare advocates, but to every American in the country, that so many people have been so brutally and mercilessly exploited by the healthcare system that they don't know where else to turn but violence. Because let's be honest, in a lot of ways, the healthcare system is perpetuating violence against us. It's big money players that refuse to see us as human beings, instead seeing us as a claim or a number, and trying to figure out how they can reject as many claims as possible to assist their bottom line. And in, what's the phrase? Cornered animals, when they have nowhere else to run, often lash out. And there are a lot of people, particularly young people, who are damn close to lashing out because they don't see any other solution. It would be immensely beneficial for the power players in the healthcare industry to kind of recognize that they are driving people to crazy and immune and or inhumane, and unrational thought processes because they're desperate and they have nowhere else to turn.
And I think that's absolutely right. I mean, I think that, if the context were anything other than healthcare politics, everyone would recognize immediately that what happened, both, what Mangione did and also the public response is a trauma response, right? We have been traumatized. This is a generational trauma in this country by this healthcare system. And I think that folks need to start recognizing that the kind of quaint phrase, right? Hurt people hurt people. We need to see the danger in that, right? And these companies need to stop hurting people because there's just going to be a lot more, I think, pain and violence ahead, unfortunately.
Well, it's just sort of a signifier of the core dysfunction of the society as it's gone off the rails, that the industry, the services that are there to care for us don't care for you. They simply have other priorities. So let's go. I always like to call first on the person whose name I'm less familiar with. So let's go to Austin Prochaska with a question for Gillian, and then back to Donna. So please unmute Austin and your question for Gillian or comment.
Oh, thank you very much. Am I allowed to put the... Okay. So about universal health care, all these conservatives all talk about is who's going to pay for it, and if we tax the rich, they're just going to drive them away. My question is, how do you respond to that with those allegations? Because personally, I don't care about taxing the rich, or I don't care where they go. At least they don't freeload off of our suffering. Am I right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the right answer. I mean, honestly, like my first answer is, wait, am I allowed to swear here? Have I already sworn?
Yeah. Go.
Okay. So my first answer is like, I don't give a fuck like where the rich people go or what they do. They're literally killing us, right? We're dying. People are dying in the streets. And so if that means it's inconvenient for rich people to have, $1 billion less dollars or something. I mean, like, it's just ridiculous. So I think there's that. But also, when I'm in a less spicy mood, I would probably just say that, like, if you've ever been to Europe, you'll notice that they have universal healthcare, and also they have obscenely rich people, right? Universal healthcare doesn't keep people from being rich. In fact, it actually makes good capitalist sense, by their own warped logic, right? You got small businesses who can succeed because they don't have to provide all this healthcare. It's a win-win. That's the nice answer.
I think that's a little bit more of a benign system of capitalism than the one that we're operating under in the financialized era. Don't forget, one of the reasons who are the people who are supporting the current system as it is? On the one hand, it is the very wealthy because they get to buy their boutique services, and be actually cared for with all of their wealth. And of course, there's such concentrated wealth in the hands of the few, they can buy it. But also the investor class, when you have a situation where every other health service in the world at most cost 10 is represents 10% of gross domestic product. In the United States, it's about 18%. All of that money just sloshing around in the U.S. healthcare system. I mean, think about who's making the money from it. Yes, some doctors make money, some people have jobs, but they're not very well compensated wherever they are in the insurance companies, or they're in the support staff at hospitals and doctors' offices, or they're nurses. They're not getting rich off of it. Who's getting rich off of it? As always is the case in the United States, it's the investor class. So there's that appetite for the maintenance of the system. So yes, what you both said there about the rich people, Austin and Gillian, right on point. Donna Smith, your thoughts again.
Yeah, I think the reality, I agree with so much of everything that was said here. I think my husband, my machinist husband, taught me a concept. I don't know, Alan, if it's an economics concept or if it's a business. I know it's what the health industry does too. Planned obsolescence. We are planned obsolescence, folks. Our overall health, and whether or not, if we were all really healthy, that's not really good for the healthcare industry. That hurts a lot of jobs, and there's every bit of protectionism in this system. Alan just told us 18% of the gross national product. That's a lot of money to tinker with. That's where the fear comes from. And I think sometimes I find that I don't want to characterize everyone who has what I consider wealth as evil or bad, because I don't think that's true. I think I have recognized in my life that there are people who have, either through real estate or somehow their hard work and so forth, ended up with more than they thought they would, but they are very aware of the grace that allowed them to become so. And they do good in the community. So I just want to pass that along. Like, I want to mention specifically our son's best man at his wedding, Aaron Arcurso, and his wife, Miss Rachel. So, there are some people who have enjoyed some very fruitful things, right? But they fight for healthcare. Aaron's father was a doctor. So anyway, planned obsolescence. And William, NBC News, once a week, every week now. I know it's mainstream, but a lot of we boomers still watch some of it. They are doing a hit at the insurance industry every week. A really strong story about insurance failure and what is happening in this country. That's new. That's different. I've not seen major media do it before. They're scared of losing advertising revenue is what happens there. Look at how many insurance plans and drugs and everything are. We seniors don't see anything but those ads. That's it. That's all we see. Thank you. Bye.
Hold on a second. Just per what Jillian just wrote in the chat. I would love to get Miss Rachel to be a guest on one of our town halls. Any chance you can extend
I can ask. I don't know if she's. Yeah, I think Rania is very close to her too. So maybe
right.
A two-person ask. We could do it.
Oh yeah, I would just so love that right now.
Yeah.
So,
Let's do it together, Alan. Let's do it.
Such a big
Brave and just so genuine. Oh my God. Oh,
beautiful. Absolutely. So in a moment we're going to go to Mike Fox with our PDA to-dos, but Jillian, you can stick with us, right? And take all the questions in the queue. Are you able to hang out with us for a little while longer?
I wouldn't be anywhere else. Yep. Sounds great.
Great. But before that, I actually want to call on Jim Carpenter. And Jim raising his hand is a prompt for me to say, as we're about to go to our PDA to-dos, look, folks, we are in a very, very treacherous situation around the Jim Carpenter is, of course, the chair of our End Wars and Occupations Committee. And we are in a very, very treacherous situation right now around the United States potentially going to war against Venezuela. and against the government of Venezuela. And the whole Trump tactic of throwing everything at us all the time makes it a very different scenario than, say, the Bush buildup to the Iraq War, where everybody was focused on it and it was going to happen and it still happened and we did everything we could to stop it and we were right and they were wrong. It should never have happened. This is a real, hemispheric catastrophe that we're possibly going to go barreling into. It'll be a great distraction for Trump from the Epstein case, and it'll be just, people will die and incredible instability and injustice will prevail. So we at PDA have to, now that I'm back from my extracurricular burdens that I've had up until November 15th, we really have to hone in and focus on the call for peace and to make sure the United States does not go to war against Venezuela. That's me editorializing there, but on behalf of PDA, Jim Carpenter, you raised your hand. What's your question or comment for Gillian?
Yeah, so normally I do talk about war, but you did such a great job of talking about Venezuela. I'm not going to say anything about it now. And of course, we still got the genocide going on in Gaza. We have to continue to focus on that. But I want to talk about healthcare just for a bit because I did teach economics in college, and I have some views on this. And first of all, I'm curious why you say Medicare for all instead of improved Medicare for all, because we know with this improved Medicare for all, you wouldn't have to buy another set of insurance to cover what Medicare doesn't cover. So I think talking about that will bring a lot of elderly into standing behind you because they don't want to buy all these supplemental insurance policies. Secondly, I know there's these big budget fights over the reduction of healthcare expenditures by the government. Trump wants to reduce healthcare spending for both Medicaid as well as subsidies for Obamacare. Isn't it true that you could actually decrease healthcare expenditures? Right now, as Alan pointed out, it's about 18% of GDP. In Canada, it's about 12% of GDP in Canada, single payer. So couldn't you actually have the Trump cuts for healthcare and have single payer improved Medicare for all at the same time? Because improved Medicare for all is so much cheaper, getting rid of administrative costs. Now, we haven't said a lot about administrative costs, but clearly there's hundreds of billions of dollars lost in administrative costs when you have this type of system that we have. So that's the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll just say that you're absolutely right. Like that preserving the ACA is not an ideal situation. I think that at this point, it's a form of harm reduction until we can pass Medicare for all. I think that we owe it to the people who are sick right now and who are suffering right now. Like if we can do something to mitigate their suffering right now, even if it is we all know the problems with the ACA, but I do think that it's really important just for people to be able to survive the next few years. And I think that a lot of people are going to suffer because of it, and that makes me sad. I also think that it's really important, again, to meet people where their pain is at. So, when folks are actually feeling this particular impact, we need to be able to actually say, like, yeah, we see you, and this is terrible, and this is why this happened, In terms of why I don't say improve Medicare for all, I could, if you want me to, I could say single payer. I'll be honest with you, though, most of the conversations that I actually have about Medicare for all that aren't with folks like yourselves who are like incredibly politically educated and progressive and awesome. But honestly, I don't ever actually mention the terms Medicare for all at all. When I'm talking to my neighbors in Texas and they ask me what I do for a living, I just say, I'm part of an organization where we're fighting to make sure that everyone has health care. And frankly, I have not had anyone disagree with me on that. So I think that it's easy to get bogged down in the terminology, and that I kind of just I'd really like it if we could get away from these like kind of soundbite names for things. That being said, I do want to point out that you have a really excellent point about building solidarity with seniors. And that's definitely something that we really need to get through in our message that doesn't always get through. We're aware that the Medicare system itself has problems. And that's actually probably one of the reasons that I don't generally use the term Medicare for all when I'm out there just talking IRL in the world. But yeah, those are really, really thoughtful points, Jim. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And Carpenter, I didn't know you taught economics. We'll have to have a set of meals around that sometime soon. But hey, let's go to Mike Fox right now for our PDA to-dos. We'll get back to the stack in about 5 minutes. I do want to, as we throw to Mike with our PDA to-dos, encourage everybody to donate to Progressive Democrats of America. Give whatever you can. Obviously, we are a growing organization and we have a very, very heavy agenda right now because it's been foisted on us by history. And we got to step up to this moment, and that requires resources, which have costs. And of course, we also need a little extra money these days because we need to have some funds in case we need to hire lawyers because of the reality of the Trump administration. So please give what you can to PDA on the link that Susan just put into the chat. And Mike Fox, take it away with our update at the top of the hour and our PDA to-dos for the week.
All righty. I get to start this off with thank you so much, Gillian. This has been inspirational. I genuinely appreciate it. Everybody hit that link. Show in Florida if you can. I'm going to do my favorite thing of the week here, the thank yous. The following people have donated today. Thank you so much. Tina and phone banker Bo up in Philly double dipping. And Susan, phone banker Jane out of New York double dipping. And Karen, Teresa, once again, thank you so much. And Dr. Sonneborn out in California double dipping. And phone banker Beverly in Florida double dipping. And Becky and Michael and Trudy and Robert and Betsy, phone banker Betsy double dipping, phone banker Mary double dipping, phone banker Lois double dipping. Phone bankers are carrying us here, gang. And Mary Elizabeth, thank you. And Yvonne and Valerie and Carol and Debbie and phone banker Michael and Dorothy. Thank you so much, Dorothy, for your more than kind $100. Anybody who can match or beat that, please do. And Robert out in California, Quincy, Dr. Sonborn again. He's double dipping and donating twice. Thank you, sir. And Neil and phone banker Mary double dipping, and Michael, who starts us off every week with your more than kind $5. Thank you, Michael. All right, gang, we got to start going. We're still short on goal of 100% solidarity. So as Susan has tossed into the chat, there's the link. Please hit it, hit it, hit it. Likewise, on our volunteer shifts, where are we at? Boom. Still over 10 folks short on phone banking for Afton. We got to have everybody in the game bringing home this flip victory in Tennessee, of all places, on December 2nd. So pdamerica.org/volunteer, invest an hour. You'll be glad that you did. She's single payer healthcare all day long and into next week. Healthcare for all advocate like nobody's business. So let's make something happen. When we go into family time, we'll take a look at where we're at on our goals again and adjust accordingly. Back to you, Alan.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fox. And I have just placed into the chat the conference. I hope I did. There I did. That the Healthcare Now conference that is taking place Saturday and Sunday next week, the 22nd and 23rd. And I will be participating in the conference. And I hope all of you will be attending either in person or digitally. And we are now going to return to questions and comments and dialogue with Gillian Mason, who is the person who organizes the conference as the head of Healthcare Now, one of our great allies at PDA. And Flo Randall, you are up. And then we'll go to Jim Langford. Flo Randall, please unmute.
Hi, everyone. So my question is about how do you become a health advocate and how do you find one for yourself?
Mm. Oh my gosh. That's really great. So when you say that, I assume you're talking about like a professional health advocate, like you'd see like employed at a
Great
hospital, like a
question,
patient
Gillian. Really
advocate. Yeah.
good. Yeah,
I'm sorry,
Donna, it's really
Gillian.
good question.
Yeah, that is a really good question. So when you talk about health advocates, though, you're talking about like a patient advocate in a hospital, like someone who's actually employed to be a healthcare advocate.
No, I would do it voluntarily.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Flo, this is a great idea. We should create a network of people who
Okay.
actually just want to support people through healthcare things. That is amazing. Because I mean, there is like a professional category, right, of like people who are employed by hospitals, particularly urban hospitals, to be patient advocates, and that's really awesome. But A, they're employed by the hospital, and B, they're overstretched, right? So yeah, I love that idea, and please hit me up,
Talk about healthcare
and
now,
let's do it.
Jillian. It's got its own title.
Yeah, I mean,
Healthcare
really.
now.
Okay, I'll email you and we'll see how what we can do about this. I love it.
Please
Thanks.
do. This is awesome.
Jim Langford.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. First of all, I want to say, Jillian, I think you're awesome. It's been so much fun working with you the last couple of months for this. Um, Jim Carpenter was brilliant, and the comments that he made were absolutely on mark. I kind of, I've worked on both sides of the aisle, so to speak. I worked as in the private sector in a management capacity, and the amount of time and energy that is spent in American businesses in the capitalist society, negotiating with insurance companies over their rates and how much they're going to charge their employees and everything is just unimaginable. The energy and the time and money that is spent on on HR negotiating with health insurance industry every single year after year, trying to get the best deal for their employees. And then I was also on the private sector as an independent individual myself, and had my LLC, and I had to go do business myself with the insurance company, and even though the ACA was uh, the best way I can put it, it was a kind of a misplaced piece of legislation. It was flawed in a lot of ways. It did the subsidies did help people to at least manage the amount of care that they were able to pay for. Um, I feel with the cuts, from this big beautiful bill that are coming to Medicaid, even though a lot of people don't realize it, and the cuts to the subsidies that are coming in and that's going to hit people in January. Now is the time to strike, as far as is the public is suddenly going to be very, 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 very aware of healthcare and and our convoluted system and how corrupt it is. And I feel like the conference we're having next weekend is at the right time to do this. So, Jillian, thank you for all of the work you've put into doing this, and I'm looking forward to working with you next weekend. Um, and once again, I just want to say how brilliant Jim Carpenter's comments were. They were just absolutely on the mark. So, thank you.
Thanks. Love you, Jim.
Mimi, unmute, please.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Thanks for being here today. I'm sorry, I forgot our speaker's name for
Jillian.
It's Jillian.
Julian. Sorry. Healthcare now. Yes, as a recent cancer patient, I was just very fortunate to have Medi-Cal here in California. And I was born in Boston, so I'm a masshole as well. I'm so sorry you like Texas, but hey, it happens. I like California. But I was wondering, for Latino support. How is that going for you? Because I would consider them a frontline community. And I saw a really interesting graph over the weekend. Well, just yesterday, it's still the weekend, that from the New York Times, that the Latinos that voted Republican in 2024 all went back voted Democratic in 2025. So I was wondering what was going on with our I gather they're a frontline community. So thank you so much, Gillian.
Yeah, no, that is, I mean, that's, you're exactly right. I do want to shout out the nurses in particular. The National United has a campaign called Medicare para Todos, where they specifically work on outreach to Latinx communities, which, you know, in places like California and Texas and Arizona, right, where, you know, you're right. Latinx communities are on the front lines for so many reasons, including our country's immigration policies and also just structural racism. So, and then also like, you know, language difference, you know, the whole bit. So yeah, it is really critical to be building solidarity right now. And yeah, again, I just want to shout out the nurses because they're doing a really great job of doing it.
Chuck Hendricks, I noticed you took your hand. Thank you, Mimi. Chuck Hendricks, I noticed you took your hand down, but I feel like you might have thought I was avoiding you. As just you were next on the stack in my list, so I'm asking you to unmute. Chuck, if you still want to add your comment or thought. I apologize about, I know I saw you had your hand up first, but asking you to unmute if you don't want to comment, that's understandable too. And let's go to our friend Dorothy Reich. How you doing, Dorothy? Please unmute.
Well, I have a cold, but I'm getting over it quickly.
Yeah.
Emergency is the best thing. I just wanted to mention that an argument for, when people, just an argument that we can keep using is that, remember the Marshall Plan a million years ago when we were rebuilding Europe? And European countries couldn't get help from us unless in their constitution they had guaranteed medical care. It had to be in their constitution. And the Americans made them do that, but they didn't do it for us. And I think that that's an argument that we need to bring up over and over again, that we knew what was right. We just didn't do it.
Oh my God,
Roosevelt and Truman administrations, among other things, remade Western Europe.
And that was 90 years ago.
And Japan, of course, too.
I mean, Truman's
a lot of thumbs up.
National healthcare was actually like probably more progressive than Obama's. So, like, yeah, it makes sense.
Thank you, Dorothy. Let's go to Craig Downer. Please unmute, Craig.
Yes, I'm an ecologist, and I'm very concerned about the health of not just humanity, but all the living species of plants and animals on this earth. And I think that if we are too exclusively concerned about our species and overlooking the health of the other species, then we're only sealing our own fate at the same time. So I think all this attack on the environmental protective laws, or the ones that protect endangered species or vital ecosystems or wilderness areas, which are also very good for the psychological health of us people, then, well, we're really missing so much of the health equation. So I'd just like your reaction to that. And I really appreciate all the points that are being made here today. It's very good discussion.
I think that's a beautiful point that you made, Craig. And one of the things I learned from working in the labor movement is that, we worked in solidarity with, like, for example, like chicken farmers, right? And what we found is that the places where the animals were treated the worst were also the places where the workers were treated the worst, right? All human life, all life in general is just, completely disposable. to these people. And so, yeah, I think that that's really critical. And also, of course, we know that the environment is a tremendous determinant of health. And so, environmental justice and healthcare justice are intrinsically linked. And no, we really can't be healthy as a people unless we heal what we're doing to the planet as well. Yeah.
Greatly appreciate your response. That's great.
Thank you, Craig. Barasmi, and then we're going to check in with William Walter again. Barasmi, please unmute.
Yes, hi. I was in as a dentist before, so I would like to ask you, do we have the endorsement of, for example, the ADA, the AMA, and the Chamber of Commerce, whose members, like the general population, is mostly composed of small businesses who struggle to pay for healthcare for their employees, and providers who get paid less and less by insurance company but spend more and more time and money on paperwork fighting to get paid. Also, most people in the general public and retirees or doctors don't understand who pays for what in our medical care. So most end up believing misinformation such as Medicare for all will bankrupt Medicare and the doctors will get paid peanuts and care will be rationed. And if I can say a little bit more, somebody texted me yesterday. She said she get paid the least for the ACA plan and Medicare Advantage plans, and yet she get audited the most by the insurance company that offer these plans. And if she doesn't pass the audit, she has to pay them back for everything that they paid her for. And on top of that, the people that rely on ACA and Advantage plans are typically low-income individuals who have significant health and mental health issue, and they can't afford anything better.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're absolutely right about all of that, including the just yeah, the way that the system is so complex that it's impossible for most people who aren't inside it to understand, and that kind of adds to people's sense that these things are like eternal and unchangeable because they don't realize that this is actually a set of rules that people have deliberately set up. So I think that that's a really good point. I also just want to say that, like, in terms of like the American Medical Association has traditionally not been in favor of single payer healthcare, but what we're seeing is an uprising among medical students. So the Medical Student Caucus in the American Medical Association did end up voting to support single payer healthcare. So I think we're really seeing a shift in the way that doctors understand the system, and then the dental, so I don't have time to go into this, but the dental lobby in Washington is wild. And you should totally listen to the dental episode of our podcast. Sorry to be a broken record on that, about that. But yeah, so I mean, the dental lobby and the professional dental associations have been really active in making sure that dental coverage isn't covered by regular medical insurance, including Medicare and Medicaid. So there have been extensive campaigns. We were really involved in that when we during the Biden years to try to get dental care included in Medicare for all. So I would really, really love to talk to you and follow up about how dentists who are on the right side of history on this one can get involved and push their medical associations in a different way. Yeah.
Sure, I would love to do that.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you. Actually, before we go to William, just your thoughts, Gillian, on Barasmi mentioned the Chamber of Commerce. And of course, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, sadly, is not so much weighted nationally towards small business anymore, but really, really large business. Businesses dominate it. And but as for small businesses and also large businesses, you would think that they would support single payer universal health care because of the headache that the health insurance arrangements are for small and large companies, and the pressures to provide benefits, and then the nightmare of their organization for any small activity and for any large activity. Now, I know that the large multinational corporations, like the health insurance companies, are, major corporations are also highly financialized institutions now. So there's that kind of synchronicity they have there. But your thoughts on that and why it's not an easier lift for us to convince at least a significant portion of the business community to support? Why do we not have more of that kind of support from business community?
Yeah. Yeah, like I've given that a lot of thought. And like, in some ways it is just mystifying, right? Like, I mean, I've run a small bit, I ran a, I was in the social justice business. I ran a nonprofit organization, but yeah, I mean, healthcare was like really damaging our business, our business.
Mm-hmm.
So I just I think that ultimately it comes down to structural racism. That's the only answer I've been able to come up with, which is that I think that these companies benefit more from the structural racism and classism that our healthcare system puts in place than they feel they would from having healthcare off their plate. And ableism, sorry, Carly said in the chat, and that's absolutely true. That's the only logic I think where it makes sense. And frequently, I guess, whenever there's been a push for healthcare reform in America, it's always been countered by that kind of really dominated racist rhetoric about people like taking advantage of the system, or classist rhetoric about people, all the stuff about fraud and abuse, which we know is like really minimal part of things. And it's just like I think that they benefit from the social structure that our healthcare system creates, and I think that their perception is that they benefit more from that than they do from shaking up the status quo.
Thank you. And William.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more I could add to that, because that essentially touches on what my entire argument from the get-go has been, and that's that an immense amount of powerful people, let's be brutally honest, they benefit from the status quo. It's a lot of my core argument against the democratic establishment itself, is they just want to return to what they deem as this sense of normalcy, but in reality, like, normal was not working for millions, hundreds of millions of Americans. And to continue to argue, particularly, as Gillian just mentioned, that a lot of people want to go back to a system they might be familiar with or safe with or understand how to work, that's like antithetical to the belief of moving forward. Our state motto here in Wisconsin is forward. We always want it to be better. We want to give future generations, our children, our grandchildren, the next individuals coming through the pipeline, a better life or superior opportunities than we had. And a lot of people just seem to have distanced themselves from that. They just want to go back to what they're safe with or comfortable with. And you can't grow when you're comfortable. It's again, I'll reference my fitness background. One of the oldest tropes in weightlifting and building muscles is you're not going to get any stronger if you're doing things that you're always or have already been capable of doing. You need to be pushing yourself, and we can do that as well from demanding better from our elected officials. We can expect a better healthcare system. We can demand a better, more just, and more equitable tomorrow. But we need people who are not only confident enough and bold enough to step up and say, yes, I will fight for you. But we need to get them elected, and then we need them to follow through. So because so many of these structural problems feel built into the system, it's a lot easier said than done. I recognize that. But that's why organizations like PDA and organizers like Gillian are so important, because we need leaders who are willing to say enough is enough. Like this better tomorrow is inevitable, but we need bodies to stand up and fight on behalf of it. And that's something that I actually hear and from young people in particular, is they are just desperate for anyone that feels like a fighter. They do not care what this individual might identify as, right? Like party labels in particular are not very common with a lot of young people. There are political ideologies all across the spectrum, but a lot of the same core problems arise when you talk to them about what their issues are. And what I hear from a lot of the progressive left in particular is that we just want somebody who's willing to stand up and fight for us. And it feels like a lot of elected officials, particularly in regards to healthcare, aren't doing that. They're just trying to return to what they deem as normal.
Thank you. And Gillian, your thoughts. Thank you, William.
Oh no, I just think that that's right, and I think that's a good way of putting it. That like I feel like they feel like they're comfortable navigating the system that they think is normal. I think that's true. But obviously, normal is just really fucked up for the rest of us, right?
So we have 10 people on stack, and we got only about 20 minutes left on the town hall max. So Chuck, you're up next, because I promised to call on you as you put your hand up. And after that, we're going to go over to, Donna, Sharon, Terry, Tina, and everybody else will get to too. But Chuck, you're up.
Okay. Every time I'm up, Lena Khan's on my mind. Anyway, but Medicare for all, the part I don't understand is how how is it fighting the for-profit system in a natural monopoly? That's just really strong. And so, and William hinted some of it. There's some fight back to that profit motive monopoly they got out there. And so, but it seems like to me, just fighting the monopoly directly with antitrust may be just quite almost as effective, but that's irrelevant. What I want to know is what are your thoughts on how we fight the healthcare system, not the insurance system, with in Medicare for all? How Medicare for all helps fight that battle against the profit making monopolies.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that this is just like one of those cases where I think, folks can see through the kind of corporate Democrat line about what we can do to, improve the system in cooperation with the insurance companies, right? I think that folks are really seeing through that now. So I think that, when we offer Medicare for all as a kind of positive vision of a world without insurance companies, I think that's pretty attractive to people and something we definitely need to emphasize. Yeah.
Broncos fan with the great backdrop.
I know you'd all notice I changed my shirt. Anyway, here in Colorado, we're working on getting funding for the Colorado School of Public Health to do a study of single payer and universal health care, what it would do for Colorado. We're very close to raising $750,000 that will go towards that study that will update. People have been referring to old studies. But in any case, on the organization that sits as the Colorado chapter of Healthcare Now here, people were talking about business like we were. How do we get business involved? And I thought, this man in Colorado who owns a pizza place called Bojo's, I know he's a single payer guy. Has anybody asked him? So now he is on the board of the organization here in Colorado. And my point would be, listen, folks, when you're in the room with other advocates, listen for other people who could be real helpers. You remember how Mr. Rogers used to say, listen for the helpers. They are out there. Chip is now on the board. And the reason he states is all about business. He eventually has retired, sold most of his business to his employees, but he had been known as a wonderful employer and very popular here in Colorado. So when we hear about those, Chip Baer is his name, Baer. If you'd like to know about Chip, he's just a good guy. So we are all working together as an alliance to get this study funded completely and then move forward. And I think, I put the comment in there, and I'll close with this about bus tour or whistle stop or something. The connections that happened with people, whether we were on NNU bus tours, whether we were on Healthcare Now bus tour, or whether we were on a bus tour with a campaign office, always to reach working class people. People who are wealthy and are well set don't come out to those kinds of things. And we made wonderful connections with people who at first had been leery in their community of what it meant to be for Medicare for all. So anyway, I'll close with that, and we can all start thinking about it because a lot of planning goes into that kind of stuff. So anyway, back to you, Alan.
Gillian, it'd be great to be on a bus tour.
Can I just say that this Bojo's guy sounds great, and I hope the pizza is good too. But
it's amazing.
He does sound great.
His macaroni and cheese pizza is to die for.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I love it when small business owners in particular get involved. I think it's super duper fabulous. And I think that, I love it. And I just also want to point out that you've become a lot more friendly to rich people lately.
Yeah.
You saw it.
They're out there. We all got to cultivate those people in our lives we know are facing this. Cultivate them. They don't have to come to be PDA, but maybe they will want to listen to one of Gillian's podcasts about business and what's happening. It would be really good.
Wisdom. Yeah.
Love the idea of the bus tour too. Sharon, unmute please, and then Terry Stiegel, then Tina.
My question or comment is, seniors are a voting block, but we also use probably most of the healthcare in this country. Can that be mobilized in any way?
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. Do you want to say a little bit more about what you mean by that?
Sharon, please unmute. Sharon, please unmute.
Try. Okay. Because if there was a way that we could utilize the seniors more, because they are a very large voting block, but they also account for a significant higher cost in healthcare.
Yeah, I do see what you're saying. Yeah, and that's really interesting. Yeah, seniors are the if we're going to go by the business logic, right? Like seniors are like the highest consumers of healthcare generally, right? And you would think that buying power would have some influence on the industry. I think that you're right that mobilizing seniors is really critical, and I think that we need to start thinking about new ways to do it, because a lot of the traditional organizations that claim to represent seniors are in bed with the insurance companies, AARP, for example. And so we've done work with the Retired Americans organization, that's part of the AFL-CIO. It's a caucus group or whatever. They were working to advocate for seniors, and particularly working class seniors, in like a more progressive way. And so, yeah, I'm really trying to take my lead from those folks for sure.
Thank you. And Terry Stiegel is a great lifelong union man, union organizer, and activist up in Northwest Indiana. And I didn't know Gillian had had a background in being a union person and an organizer herself. Terry Stiegel, you're up.
Yeah, I think what's important that's not really getting out there, I think, is on Bernie's Medicare for All bill. The Congressional Budget Office did a score on it, and it saves $650 billion a year. So when you have all these arguments that people say, well, how much, what it's going to cost more, it doesn't cost more. And I guess the other thing that we need to do is probably get and I don't have it, is a good explanation on the how it's paid for. We'll have to pull together. I know it used to be in the old bill, it was like 7% or something. Somehow they had some calculations on that. So I don't know what the up-to-date figures are on that. Yeah. The other thing that I've been a little upset with is even MSNBC has not really been very friendly for Medicare for All. They've never mentioned the fact that Bernie's bill CBO score is $650 billion that saves the American people. So I think you got some outreach you can do there with some connections. Another guy that's kind of wishy-washy about things is Chris Cuomo has done some damage, I think, too, because he doesn't know anything, and he kind of misrepresents things at times too. So if somebody's got a connection, to reach out to him to straighten them out about what Medicare for All is all about, it would be a great thing too. One last thing is, I think it's important because we got Democrats that aren't supporting this either, which is sad, especially right now when they see what's happening to the healthcare system. I sent emails to the Indiana State Democratic Party, and it's so bad they don't even answer back. So I mean, we have a real problem within the Democratic Party. So everybody in their state can lobby their state party and their local politicians and educate them on this Medicare for All. I think it's a good idea to try and push this thing forward. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are all like super good points. And I think that one of the things that the movement needs more of is folks that are able to talk about economics without Well, I think, okay, so but the Republicans have managed to make a really compelling narrative about their economic view of the world. And I think that, most, conservatives, right, right wingers, they couldn't really tell you about the economics of why their healthcare system is better, but they've internalized this story. So I think that we need to find more people who are able to process that economic information and tell it as a story in a way that people understand when they don't necessarily understand a lot of numbers. So yeah, I think that's really important. And for all of you on this call who seem to really understand this system, you are incredibly necessary. And I challenge you to think about, how do you explain that to a 6-year-old, right? How do you explain that to someone who barely graduated high school? How do you explain that? I think it's just really critical and really important. And I imagine as a union leader, you've had plenty of experience of doing that kind of translation.
So Tina from Florida, I believe, is up next. But let me just say quickly that we have after Tina still 7 people on stack, and we only have a few minutes left. So after Tina, everybody's only going to get about 30 seconds. Go ahead, Tina.
I'm real quick. Advice for a health advocate: join the ombudsman in your area, and then write a letter to your congressional office with the person that's in charge of SSI and SSD. Ask for the representative that takes that it has that responsibility in their office, in the congressional office. Email them. Send your name, your address, your city, the situation of you got to have excellent documentation. They have to answer your email. That's how you become a health advocate. 30% of the hospitals, because the hospitals are supposed to be nonprofit, because that's how they get their license, and they're supposed to give 30% back to the community if the patient cannot afford to pay their bill. So a lot of people don't know of the loopholes and how to get in there to be an advocate. That's my 3 recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tina. I have lost the interface. There we are. Okay, up next, let's go to Heidi. Please unmute.
Yes, I was on a call with Popular Democracy the other day, and I spoke with Representative Ro Khanna and asked about climate change and health. And I'm wondering, he told us about the Green New Deal for Health Act, a legislative proposal sponsored also by my old congressman, Senator Edward Markey. And it addresses the intersecting crisis of climate change and public health. And I'm wondering if you have anything to do with that.
Not yet, but I am really interested in that. And I'm really interested in doing more research on that.
Do you need me to send you a link or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. Love that. Anything that Ed Markey's doing, I'm with. I'm interested.
There we go. And by the way, we will be getting behind Mr. Markey as he runs for re-election against Seth Moulton. Very happy to see that Seth Moulton will not be accepting money from APEC this time, but he is a much more conservative Democrat than Ed Markey, and we support Ed Markey very much here at PDA. Did you have any thoughts on what Tina said about calling your Congress and talk about SSI and Social Security person and
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really important, and I think it is. I think Tina had more practical knowledge about how to exactly go about it with relationship to the ombudsman than I do. So I appreciate what she said. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Tina, for that. And Peter, you're up. Please unmute Peter.
Hi, I hope this isn't naive. I've been for Medicare for All forever, but this is the first meeting about it I've ever attended. So thank you so much. Is it counterproductive to advocate for the passage of the ACA extension when it comes to a vote in December? I know we'll probably lose, but I think I don't understand why No Kings and Move On and Indivisible aren't calling for giant rallies in the street for the week before that in December so that we kind of make it clear who's against the passage of that vote. Is it counterproductive vis-a-vis Medicare for All to advocate for that extension of ACA?
Oh, I don't think so at all. I think we're building a health justice movement. And like I said, it's a question of harm reduction. We need to take care of people who are dying now while we're fighting to prevent the conditions in which they're dying. So I do think that's important. I do think it's an important opportunity to hold elected officials accountable. Love to see a vote on that. And I think it would be really awesome if folks wanted to head out in the streets. And I would definitely support that, and we would endorse that.
Yeah, so let's all contact No Kings and Indivisible and Move On and ask them to call us into the streets about it. Thank you.
Yes, and actually, I do have a toolkit for that on our website, so I'm actually going to drop that in the chat as well.
Great.
Yeah, actually, we are a part of that coalition. Actually, I did contact them about having Medicare, not Medicare for all, but the healthcare crisis per the Trump administration's attack on further attacks on the healthcare system be a focus point of a national call for a demonstration, and they sort of weren't into it for some reason. Now, that may be different as it approaches the vote, and I think you're right that that's an important cusp moment. I think I was a okay messenger to be the person who did that from the Medicare for All roundtable. We reached out to him on behalf of that. Remember, it was our great friend Rose Roach up in Minnesota who had proposed it. But maybe someone else from the table will reach out to them again and propose it, because I think it's a great idea, Peter. And of course, I thought it was before too. So there you go. And Maggie Boyd, please unmute.
Hi, I'd like to know, I know Afton Bain is a proponent of Medicare for All. Is any national politicians such as Hakeem Jeffries or the minority whip, Catherine Clark, or any of those people, are they coming out in support of her? I feel like she's out there on her own. She is. That's pathetic, though.
Well, she's getting some support, more support now in the past few days, but no, of course they really should. Well, on the one hand, there's a question as to how much national Democratic top tier leadership would help in the race or hurt. Like if Chuck Schumer showed up, I'm not sure exactly it would win a lot of votes in the district.
I didn't mention him. I don't care for him.
Yeah, I certainly think if Bernie showed up, or actually a whole number of people, I'm the governor of Kentucky, whoever, Chris Murphy, I think if these kind of people show up, it'd be fine. They're not exactly from the progressive.
Why not? Why aren't they?
Oh, why aren't they? I don't know. And certainly Bashir could certainly help out up there, but I don't know Tennessee and Kentucky how that goes. But no, everybody should be out there supporting. Everybody who's got sort of good standing and good karma these days should be out there. It hasn't happened yet. It was great to see that Indivisible is supporting and we're supporting, but no, it hasn't attracted that. But again, one of the things there is I do want to say, there might be a strong, and Mike Olis may be able to speak to this more than I can. I'm sensing from the campaign that their strategy to win is to run a very district oriented, Tennessee oriented type of race. So and more power to them if because I think that has been working. I think they're doing well. But of course, I do think some of the more popular Democrats, and all Democrats, should say they support Afton Bain. I agree with that. So yeah, love to see it. Gillian, any thoughts on that as we go to John next?
Oh no, y'all are much more educated on this race than I am, but it's just it's really about people throwing down whenever they can, and I think that these like kind of progressive institutions, they do listen to their members sometimes, and so if enough people get together and pressure them, then we could see some kind of a shift, and I just love that PDA is working on that.
Thank you, John.
Thank you,
John. Oh yeah, thank you, and John Prinz, you're up. Thank you.
Thanks. Real quick, when there's 10 phone calls to a congressional office, they say my phone's ringing off the hook. So if you get hundreds of calls, you get results. Couple of real quick points. Engage people instead of talking at them. How do you feel about it being in a developed country that has the lowest life expectancy on the planet, or one of the lowest and that's a healthcare issue. Racism is a public health crisis in the making. That's an important thing for people to know and understand as well. And the vast majority of people that we talk to are not as plugged in as we all are So we have to talk to them where they are and ask them, what does healthcare for all, what does Medicare for all mean to you and your life and your family? And then you'll be able to engage. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Gillian, any thoughts? And gonna go to Anne, Margaret, Nina, and then Mimi, and then we're out.
Sounds great. Tell your story to people. Be vulnerable with people. Listen to where they're coming from. That's the best advice.
Anne Blay, you're up.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, 1 second. All right.
Yes.
I just wanted to say, if people want to be out there, it seemed like people wanted to be out there another time. There is going to be an 11/22 Saturday in D.C. There's a major event happening, and I know that the other areas are having it kind of. They wanted everyone to go to D.C., but I think people can't go to D.C., but they're still going to be out there that weekend. Is it replace the regime? I mean, Medicare for all, that's so incremental to replacing this regime. If we could get rid of them, we could actually have a decent health care system in the United States. But first, so I think if anybody wanted to be out there with Medicare for all, I'd say go to the replace the regime event. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of people in D.C., so people in D.C. really ought to try to get there.
Thank you. And when they're home from the event, they should tune in to the Healthcare Now National Conference, which of course is taking place as well on the 22nd and 23rd, all day on the 22nd. And it is the Healthcare Resistance Medicare for All National Strategy Conference. And I'm going to put the link into the chat again. And let's see, up next is Margaret. Please unmute, Margaret, as I put the link to the conference again in the chat.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, this is Isaac Lieberman, registered nurse. I'm Margaret Finstrom's husband of trustycpa.com. What I'd like to say is ask a question in support of trumpmustgo.org. I think it's related to what Ann was just saying. Everything we believe in and fight for is being undermined and destroyed by the unconstitutional and illegal behavior of the Trump regime. Thankfully, National Organization for Women, more and more indivisible groups and other No Kings members are finally joining the effort. Will PDA please join the trumpmustgo.org coalition?
We'll look into it. For
Thank
sure. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, man.
You bet.
Nina, you're up. Please unmute, Nina.
I agree with what he just said. The Trump must go regime is still in DC, and they'll be there till infinity too. You answered a lot of my questions, from Peter. Thank you, Julian, on this ACA credit fight that they're having and the vote versus Medicare for all. Getting out of the streets during the holiday time is a little tough, but we should do it too. Number one. Number two, is there going to be, I know I saw the link and I saved it to my email for that thing. I'm in Florida, but I can't make it up in person, but there is going to be a virtual.
Absolutely. You can join. You do not even need to register to join the virtual conference. Just head over to our socials. If you're on Facebook, you can go to our Facebook page. And if you're on YouTube, you can check out our YouTube channel, which is full of excellent videos as well. And we're going to be streaming the conference live from both of those.
You're going to be on Facebook or YouTube?
Facebook or YouTube, and we'll be getting out a better schedule coming up this week so that folks will know exactly when they want to tune in to hear what.
This has been fabulous. So what do you think about the fight that they're doing over the ACA tax credits? They're supposed to have a vote in December. That versus the Medicare for all, which we all want and need.
Yeah. I mean, I got arrested to pass the ACA, and when I think about the fact that I paid bail for the ACA that we got, I'm always a little disgusted. But yeah, absolutely. Again, we have to take care of people where they're at, and if people who are now losing their ACA credits, don't see people in the Medicare for All movement standing up for them, they are not going to stand up for Medicare for All. Solidarity is not transactional, but reciprocal. And so I think that it's really important that people see that we as a movement are out there right now.
Not this Republican Congress, probably won't, but the Democrats progressive, yeah. But thank you. This has been amazing. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, everybody, let's give a as we have Mimi on deck, and then maybe final thoughts from William. Let's all give an initial applause to Gillian Mason. And just you've actually been an unbelievably fantastic guest, Gillian, and thank you for having so much time for us. And everybody, tell everybody you know about this conference next week because it's going to be just as engaging and more. So thank you, Gillian. And Mimi, again, you're up again.
Thank you so much. I'll try and keep this very short. We need to remember that it's for profit in our healthcare and that 50 trillion transfer of wealth has occurred in 50 years or more. Someone correct me, I'm not always an economist. Also, I find that the best to talk to people about single payer is that the 2% payroll tax is the best solution to our healthcare, and that's cheaper than any premiums or deductibles. That's what I find the easiest way to talk about it, and that's the way most of our peer countries address single payer. And then I wanted to let folks know there was at No Kings too. I'm on a state leadership for California Indivisible, and there were climate delegations in the major cities. We didn't have that in San Jose. We decided not to, but I'm sure there could be Medicare for All or single payer contingents if you all reach out to the right people. And I could even mention that as well. And then also there's the Remove the Regime Coalition that's happening on the 20th through the 22nd, calling everyone to DC, which I've written to PDA about. And there are buses from Cleveland, all across New York State. There are buses from Florida, and I hope people can look into that and hope to go. And that's at removetheregime.com, which is, I'm sure, the Trump Must Go organization is in coalition with them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mimi. And yes, I mean, again, I think it's important that maybe the No Kings folks consider again the idea of mobilizing around the U.S. healthcare system. It would, of course, be in defense of the ACA, but I think it would also, and I think Indivisible would be cool with this at this point, to understand that the system needs to be improved from its current condition. We'll see what they decide, but I think it is clearly healthcare is the economy is a big part of why the economic reasons are a big part of why people loathe the U.S. healthcare system, though at its core, the fact that it delivers really lousy healthcare is even probably more to the point. So when you see these opinion polls about, the economy is always the top issue, healthcare is often second or third listed, but it has overlap. And it certainly is a contributing factor to why people are so concerned about the economy.
How have we let that happen? If 18% of the gross domestic product isn't the economy,
right?
How have we let that happen?
Right. It's crazy, and so I think healthcare really is so dysfunctional, and there's such consciousness about its dysfunction that I think, and with Trump clearly, hoping to make it go worse. By the way, the person who asked earlier, sorry to opine on this, but maybe Gillian can share her thoughts on my reflections here. The person who said, should we vote against the ACA because it's if it goes away, we'll have a better chance of Medicare for all. Generally, in the United States, in the neoliberal era, it's been my sense that if you take something away, it's not like it's going to get something much better is going to come back. Generally, it just stays taken away and it doesn't return at all. So those sort of strategies of greater tension just don't work in our society right now with our dysfunctional political system. So I'd be very, very worried if we lost the ACA benefits that we have at this point. And believe me, I'm structurally opposed to the whole organization of ACA. Giving tax dollars to these insurance companies is just wrong, in my opinion. but it is better than what was there before. It's very important. It saves lives, helps people's lives. And so we can't have it be taken away without Medicare for all instantly going into
It is
place.
a genocide of a different kind,
Yeah,
Alan.
yeah,
We
yeah.
do it very quietly and behind the scenes.
Right.
But rest assured, people will die.
Right. And not only that, but to Gillian's point about the racism and the structural racism in the United States, of course,
Oh,
there'll be
yeah.
working class people from of all ethnicities, but obviously with a higher concentration among indigenous communities, Black Americans, people of color in general. Maybe Donnie, your final thoughts, William, your final
Yeah,
thoughts,
I
and
want to
then
hear
maybe
from
possibly.
William because I just do. I like hearing from William. The reality is this issue touches everyone somehow, whether it's their own healthcare or someone they love. And we just got to keep talking to everybody. And Ro Khanna coming on next week. I mean, talk about a guy who's in leadership on this. And Adelita Grijalva. Oh my God, that's wonderful. This is great progress, and PDA's been a big part of it. So thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Donna. You are my partner and all of our partners. William.
Yeah, the key point that Donna just mentioned is what we all, I think, need to take away from this, and that's that healthcare impacts everybody. The healthy, the sick, the old, the young, the black, the white, the left, the right. Healthcare is a universal issue that every single individual in the United States and across the planet is going to have to deal with at some point in time. It would benefit society. It would benefit the humanity as a species to have the most efficient and effective healthcare protocols in place so that the most people have the best access. It sounds like it's like no shit type of thing to say, but for a lot of elected officials and a lot of people in power, they don't subscribe to that belief. And I think whether it's healthcare for yourself or for your neighbors or for your family or your friends or your loved one, there will come a time that no matter how responsible you are, this is a conversation I was having on OWR's socials the other day when I was discussing Medicare for all, getting a lot of I was discussing how healthcare is a human right, and a lot of the comments from predominantly right-wing individuals was, no, healthcare is not a human right. Take personal responsibility for yourself. Why should I be subsidizing people who choose to drink or smoke or eat like crap or whatever? And it's such a false comparison because though there are myriad ways that health can hit you and impact you, no matter how quote unquote responsible you may or may not be. You can't control if somebody else is at fault when you're driving to work and you get in a horrible car accident. Now you might be permanently physically disabled for the rest of your life, and you're going to be in crushing medical debt for the rest of your life. There's nothing you can do to prepare against that. Cancer does not care how personally responsible you are, right? A lot of these we've made a lot of progress in the medical field over the history of humanity, but there are still some things that we cannot control. And for those things that are outside of our control, we should try to make it as just and equitable as possible. And that is what a Medicare for all single payer system does. It is saying that human health should not be commodified. That is one of the only aspects of our lives that feels like genuinely true, unique, and authentic to existence itself. And that is that our bodies are the vessels by which we experience life, and we should be doing all that we can to keep our bodies as safe, as healthy, as protected as possible. And whether or not you're in great shape, individual who's commenting on our social media posts, doesn't matter because you won't always be in good shape. And I guarantee you have a parent, a loved one, a neighbor who is desperate for healthcare that you would be okay supporting, but then when it's somebody who's not in your personal circle or somebody that you don't know, all of a sudden you don't care. It's a fundamental lack of empathy that I think has grown immensely over the past decade, if not longer, in the United States. So hopefully we can rectify that by talking to as many people as possible, by uplifting the importance of healthcare as a human right and advancing these causes electorally and politically.
I think that's really, really important. And I just want to say, like, just in general, like, I think we should all just be fucking sick of these like deserving recipient of justice narratives, right? There is no one who is more deserving of justice, more deserving of health, more deserving of life than the other. I don't give a shit whether you're a criminal. I don't care whether you smoke or drink. Yeah, I mean, we all deserve health, no matter what we're doing, what personal choices we're making. So love that you underlined that.
Mr. Jim.
Yeah, I just want to say we need to bring William to Florida. I'm so impressed. It's incredible. William, you're really, really good at this. And thank you so much for everything you're doing. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
Well, Gillian Mason, why don't you just round things off with reminding everybody what's going on in, boy, I keep getting the name of the town wrong. What is it called? Rockledge, Florida.
Yes,
On
you're
the
going to learn the
Atlantic
name of the
coast.
town because we actually have someone from the city council who's going to be welcoming us to the city. That's how great Rockledge is.
Great.
So we're going to be in Rockledge, Florida. That's on the 22nd and the 23rd. That's next Saturday and Sunday. On Saturday, we're going to be doing workshops and speakers. And on Sunday, we'll be doing a strategy session. You can participate even if you can't come. You can participate online by joining us on our socials at Facebook and YouTube. And finally, I really support what y'all are doing here. This has been an amazing opportunity to talk to you. It was such a great conversation. In fact, that I donated to PBA just now, and I hope that all of you will too. Of course, we need to spread it around. So if you're interested in the fight for Medicare for all, I would also encourage you to maybe kick a few dollars over to Healthcare Now, especially if you enjoy our live streams.
Well, they certainly have a charismatic and brilliant leader over at
I don't know
Healthcare
about
Now. And I'm really happy that I'll be in your company next weekend at this conference in Rockledge, which I just looked up, and the weather is much nicer there than in California today. Well, actually, I love weather like this. It's just people don't think of this as the best kind of day, but it's rainy and cloudy. But here in LA, it's the most beautiful kind of day. So anyway, thank you so much, Gillian, and everybody. Let's see if I still have that as the most recent. Nope. Oh, you know what? I was going to put into the chat again the conference information, but I actually had copied and pasted Tommy Douglas's name because Donna Smith had recommended a movie in the chat about Tommy Douglas, which I've never seen. So Prairie Giant, right? And so now
Great movie.
yeah, there we go. Now I got a film I got to watch about Tommy Douglas. And
It's a little bit long, but it's good.
if people don't know who Tommy Douglas is, he's the guy who introduced universal single-payer healthcare to Saskatchewan province in Canada, and it spread like wildfire across the country. And also was the first leader of the left party there, the New Democratic Party, first national leader. So Tommy Douglas, yes.
Yeah. Told he couldn't preach politics from the pulpit. That's why he left.
That's right. He was a preacher. So and good to see you put those skills to work in a good way. Okay, so lastly, again, oh boy, I keep not doing this right. Here is the link for the webpage for the Healthcare Now, and then Susan put the link to the YouTube for next week, and we'll all see you there. And now I did want to say that as I sign off and we go to family time, I of course want to thank Gillian Mason, our featured guest from Healthcare Now, and y'all can follow the conference next week. I want to thank Donna Smith, Mike Fox, and of course William Walter for joining us, and Anthony Floccavento way at the top of the show, and great things that he's doing with the Beyond Resistance and the Rural New Deal initiatives and the thing at the DNC. But mostly, Gillian, thank you, and see you next week, Gillian.
Thank you so much. Love to all of you, and stay safe and stay dangerous.
Thank you. And this has been PDA's National Town Hall for November 16th, 2025. And next week, we do have scheduled Rokana to join us for the full town hall. So join us then. And the day before, tune into the Healthcare Now conference. And that's it. Your bow and your ribbon on the show, Fox.